What up, guys? Another Adonis review, and today I thought I would go over the PSVR2 again, give an update now that it's been out for, what has it been, 5, 6 months now, and kind of go over my thoughts on if you should get it now, after it's been out for a few months, or if it's worth leaving at home. Or I guess in the store and having in your home. And I'll start off with saying I think it's a must-have. And I'll kind of go over why I thought this and kind of my updated thoughts from the first video I had. So, when the VR2 first came out, I was really getting into the VR1. I was the type of person who left the VR1 sitting on a stand for most of its life for a few years. When I first got it, it was kind of a novelty that, I'd maybe have someone come over, I'd show them Beat Saber, be like, oh, isn't that cool? Like, yeah, this is cool. But whenever it came to the thought of, like, will this be the future of gaming? No. And then whenever I saw, like, honest, takes on it, or VR videos that talked about how it just sits there in the corner of your room and collects dust, I thought how funny that is. That is what it does. I never use it. That especially too also mixed with the fact that it gave me terrible motion sickness. So even if it was hands down the best thing that, since a ham sandwich or whatever, who could adapt it, and how can it become mainstream if everyone's throwing up and getting sick because of it? And that was my thought. And then I made a decision to myself to use the thing I bought one day and just try to play maybe one mission a day on it. Maybe 30 minutes a day is kind of what one level maxes out to. And, just slowly start beating the games I bought so it didn't sit there and go to waste. Eventually, the more I played it, the motion sickness went away, and eventually I could sit there and play for hours, and it never bothered me, and I don't get motion sickness now. And as I got more and more into the VR, no longer getting motion sickness, being able to play games, well, boom, the VR2 comes out. And at first I tell myself, well, I'm not going to pay, $500, $600, when all it really has right now is, really main staple games that it latch onto is, Call of the Mountain maybe, and Resident Evil 8. Those are cool looking games and definitely probably worth seeing, but they're not worth buying it. That's probably the main thing with a lot of people considering it. There's just not enough games that make it worth it. And if someone like me who plays a fuckload of games, can't find enough games to play out of it, well, what about the average consumer who, only plays a few games every now and then? They really need something to kind of push them to get it. So, I also thought it was going to not be worth it. But then I played it, bought it regardless, so I was like, you know what, I'm going to get it anyways. I'm going to end up paying it for, 3 months from now for the same price. Why not play it now and, save my money for later? So with that being said, I got it, expecting to play Call of the Mountain, Horizon being one of the most beautiful games I've ever seen on a console, and expected, wow, what's this going to be like in VR? If a PS2 level of graphics can look great in a VR world, well, what's this going to look like? And I won't lie, I was almost underimpressed. I realized pretty much immediately that the graphics were, of course, improved and looked great, but they weren't at the same par as the graphics on my normal TV, which I have a great TV, so it's not like that's a bad thing. But I was really expecting, the same level of graphics on my outer TV to be inside the VR world with this updated OLED screen they put on there. And it was not there, mainly because the processing unit still is a lot tougher for VR, so that was a real negative at the time for me, and made me kind of go, well, it's not as great as I thought it would be. It was still cool and whatnot, but I was expecting to be blown away. So, now that months have passed, I thought, well, now that I've been let down a little bit, I'm sure I can make a pretty fair assessment of if this is worth it to somebody. And now that months have passed, not that graphics have increased or anything like that, but I've only realized even more so now that this truly is the future, and it really is something that everyone should have. The more I play it, the more I can't go back to play normal games. It's almost impossible for me to just play a typical game on the screen now, on the typical TV screen. It really shows you, and Resident Evil 8 is a great example of how games should be played. It's that simple, and you play any game now, you're just, all I can see is the fact that this could be in VR, and it would be fantastic in VR. And not only would it be fantastic, but we completely have the means to do it. But because not everyone is buying it, because they're still skeptical, people are investing, the companies are investing, and that's the reason why we don't have it. But it really is the future, guys, and you'll see it if you buy it. I'm excited that, even so it's a slow-moving departure, because not everyone's buying it, so they don't have these giant games coming out that push people to buy it. Games are coming out constantly. I think there's over 100 games already out for it, and another 100 to come. I mean, games just keep coming, and they are just, at the quality of games nowadays, and it's only going to get better. And this will be how people play in the future. Right now, with the VR2 on the PlayStation, you're tethered to the console, which, sucks for someone who might have an Oculus and doesn't have to be tethered, but really, who's out there playing on the subway? And if you are, go get an Oculus, I guess. But truthfully, we play at home. That's how the average person does it, and the console gives it that boost. It makes it smooth like butter, and it makes the game seamless to play. With the first PSVR, I would say it was a novelty that you could show people, and they would be like, that's cool. And it was cool. But it wasn't, the system couldn't handle the hardware at the time. So it made a lot of games not playable, is the best way to say it. And now we're finally at a level where the games can look good, and they can be played so smooth that it's 100% realistic to play the game and see that this is how it can be played. And the great example is Pavlov, which is basically the Call of Duty version of VR. There's no way I thought when I played the first VR, played the Firewall multiplayer, that it would ever be fair for me to play multiplayer in VR, because it was just sketchy. The controllers would wander, like, it just wasn't fair for me in my mind that I could shoot. I just felt like I was target practice for someone else. They could just easily shoot me because I could line up. Well, that's not the case anymore. With Pavlov, you could walk into a game, look down the sight, shoot, reload, do everything seamlessly, exactly like you were there in VR. So, we're really not at a stage right now where we need better hardware. We always could have better hardware, and it will come out, but we really don't need that. We just need more games. And the more people jump on and play this, and you'll see how great it is, the more games will come out. And you'll see one day, this will be what everyone plays. And it's worth getting now. They've made it to a level where you can play it, and it plays perfectly. And you'll be able to see it is the future as well. So, I'd say if you don't have the VR and you have a PS5, get it. It's worth getting. It's fantastic. There are so many games you can play with it right now, and there's only so much more to get it. The more you play, eventually, like I said, play one level at a time, you'll eventually get rid of that motion sickness, and you'll be better for it. It really is something that you just have to spend time, and you just have to play it, and you'll realize even with not being mind blown when it first came out that, I didn't reach a new level of incredibleness, of feeling like I was truly in a different world. You truly see the future of gaming where, one day we'll put on our helmets and be put into a lobby with all our friends there waving at us, and then each friend and yourself will have your own base that you've handcrafted, your own house that you've built that looks exactly like reality, exactly how you want your perfect house to be, and you can show it to your friends, they can show it to you, and then all your houses connect to a main lobby hub where you can start any game you want to play. Call of Duty, Left 4 Dead, any type of style of game, Gears of War, and boom, you're in that world playing it with your friend, and you see them, and eventually we'll have the iPad movie where we tape our expressions and whatnot. Like I said, I'm getting ahead of myself, but the point is that you can see that hope with the PSVR2 now. So is it worth getting? Yes, because you get it now, the games are out there for it now, and once you play it, you'll see that it'll be worth it, because it does have all the qualities it needs now. And as more games come out for it, it's going to be a great century for VR this term. So I think it's worth it. I think you won't be let down. Just don't let it collect dust. Play it. If you buy it, play it. Play a level a day, get past the motion sickness. You won't regret it. If you end up getting it for some reason because of this, let me know. Let me know what you think about it later.